Hello, everyone. This is my first podcast episode, and I would like to formally introduce myself and explain why I've created this podcast. My name is Dawn, and this week I will be celebrating my 44th birthday. I left my marriage in 2020 and am a mother of one adult child. I had a spiritual awakening during the COVID lockdown of 2020, and I'm here to share with you things I have not previously felt comfortable sharing, especially with those closest to me. I also wanted to give a voice to these experiences because it just really feels good to finally speak on what has been so desperately hidden inside and held within like a secret. Since I was 12, I can remember having inexplicable events occur, and I have a feeling that I'm not the only one. I'm learning that this is what the spiritual New Age books are referring to as the remembering, as in remembering who we really are and where we come from as a spiritual being. Most believers understand that there is life after death, right? So they also understand that we are made of energy. Now, if energy can neither be created nor destroyed, well, wouldn't that mean that our lives do not begin at birth within these physical bodies? If indeed we are energy, then we were also never truly born. It's for sure a hard concept to consider when you live in a world where almost everything has a beginning and an end. Thinking in terms of perpetuity or the eternal is a difficult concept to incorporate into our limited way of thinking. But please bear with me for just a moment as I explain further. So, this is the age of mass awakening, which is written in many spiritual books. I wasn't so sure about this concept of remembering when I first heard it because surely I would remember something as great as where I'm from prior to being here if it were super important. I don't forget important things. While this all seemed weird, I kept moving forward. I wasn't so sure about channeling either, even though I loved the book Ask and It Is Given by Esther Hicks. The only thing that kept me reading were the concepts spoken of in this book. And the weirder part is that they were identical to a dream I had 10 years prior to reading this book. So in 2010, I had a dream that this same voice that Esther has spoke to me and said that life is a dream. You can have, do, and be whatever you want. The strangest concept came to me in my dream. I was forehead to forehead, um, if it like facing another mind, like my mind was touching another mind. And while my mind was touching that mind, I heard her voice come through and say these things, the same things I read in her books and that are on YouTube where she is speaking to a crowd during her events. And I actually remember waking up that day after the dream and telling my in law about the message and how real it actually felt. Her response was that she smiled and said, "Wouldn't that be nice?" I thought to myself, yeah, it would be great, actually. I was in denial as I could not comprehend what I was reading as truth, even though it felt all too familiar to me to deny its resonance. Now, I do have a healthy dose of skepticism in my psyche, so I spent the first 3 years of my awakening questioning every single thing that I knew in my heart to be true, as well as the events that I have personally experienced. Recounting these events over and over, saying to myself, I know I'm not crazy. I know I'm not crazy. If I remembered dates and times, I'd write them down on paper or on my notes app, and this would help me anchor myself back into reality. The best way that I knew how to ground myself was to go over timelines and remembering what I was doing at the time that it was happening. I was laying in bed when I heard this, or this message that came through turned out to prove itself as real a week later. I guess you could say that I was doing self diagnostics periodically to prove to myself that I was not going mad. On 3 separate occasions, I can remember coming back into my body moments before waking up. I can see my room, my own body, from a third person's point of view. And the same scene matches what I had previously seen once I am indeed back into my physical body, down to the position I saw myself laying in before getting back into it. No, we are not our physical bodies, as it were, but they are our vehicles, our responsibilities for the meantime. For me, it took years to be able to separate the two. Who am I and the body that I inhabit? I do not remember much of what I do when I go to sleep, other than a few snippets of repeatedly going to the same club to hang out with friends, or living in a 3-story dilapidated house, visiting a beautiful garden, or visiting my deceased mother as she decorates her heavenly home. I have so many experiences I would love to share with this community. I know that I communicate with other beings, though I don't ever see their faces. I also know them to be my spirit guides. The closest glimpse I got of my guides were their robes and feet. It was 3 of them, and the one on the left extended his arm out to me and said, "We are helping you." Anytime I get a message from them, I feel it on the left side of my body. It is a warm, vibrating sensation, and this is how I know that my thoughts are being interceded. Now, when he told me that we are helping you, it was in a dream, but I woke up with my left side warm and vibrating, I guess is the best way to describe it. And this was during a time where I was confused and desperate for help, so much so that I begged them through tears and anger for guidance. I even went so far as to say, if I were a guide, I wouldn't leave my person in the dark. I'd help them. Yes, I said that. I tried to shame them into helping me. Not my proudest moment, but it happened, and I learned a lot from it. Mostly trust. I have learned that it's best to quiet the mind to receive help and guidance. The answer comes if we allow it, every time. Allowing myself to be receptive to an answer has the quickest response time. The new earth is here, folks, and we just have to learn how to dance to the new tune being played as the music has now changed, like the guides in Paul Selig's books say. Speaking of which, with each new episode, I'm going to either review, quote, or refer a spiritual book that I have read. I will explain why I found it to be a credible and immensely helpful read. The first book I mentioned earlier, Ask and It Is Given. In the book, it stated that some of us would come here during this time and others would stay behind in the non-physical realm to remind us and wake us up. Those of us who are spiritually inclined had made this agreement to remember. Please join me on this journey by subscribing to my Substack. This is a journey back to self where I explore my own moments of channeled wisdom, share my most vulnerable moments of self-doubt, lack of self-love, and also share high vibrational wisdom that I have received. I also want to share the human lessons I've learned along the way that led me to where I am now. After 5 years of self-discovery and inner work where I explored themes of forgiveness, the concept of unconditional love, and self-empowerment, I can finally say in truth that I remember. I am also in search of others who remember as well. It is my sincerest query to ask everyone out there listening now, do you remember who you are? Thank you for listening and have a great week. Until next time.